Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing a quick Photoshop tutorial where I'm going to show you this neat little trick where you can actually create an artificial sun in Photoshop just by using a couple different layers, some blurs, and a couple little tricks here and there. So let's go ahead and start. This is going to be a really quick one. So I need my base image here first. So what I'm going to do is open up an image that I had already saved. So if you don't have one, you'd probably need to go find one, Google Images somewhere. The one I have right here is just a backdrop of the sky. And I made sure to choose one that did not have a sun in it because, well, then you don't want two suns in your picture. So the first thing I'm going to do here is in the layer properties over here, I'm going to unlock the background layer by double clicking, and then you'll get this little pop-up menu. You can just exit out of that. So my first step here in creating my artificial sun is going to be using my elliptical marquee tool to create a circle pattern in the image. But before I do that, I want to create a new layer because I don't want to be editing in the background. I want to have a top layer, which then I can merge later. So up here, I'm going to click on Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to rename it to Sun. You can rename it whatever you want though. Alright, so now that I have my elliptical tool set, I have the sun layer selected, I'm going to just create a medium-sized circle. Be careful with this because it is pretty easy to create an oval instead of a circle. Just make sure you have it as round as you can. So there we go. I have my pattern selected. Now I'm going to use my paint bucket tool to fill in a color. So I want a sun-like color. Which, depending on the image you look at, it could be red, it could be yellow, it could be white. So I want somewhere, because this is a pretty clear sky, this looks like it'd be like in the afternoon, not at sunset or sunrise. So I want kind of a white-ish color. So I'm going to use my color selector over here to pick the color I want. So I already had mine preset, so in this one I had it a little bit more yellow than I normally would do, so I'm going to drop it just a little bit, make it a little lighter colored. So hit OK on that one. And now I'm going to use my paint bucket tool over here to fill in the color. So as you can see, we now have that perfect circle, but that's not what we want because the sun isn't a perfect circle like that when you look at it. There's lens abnormalities when you look at the sun through a camera. There's going to be rays. It's going to be really bright. You're not going to be able to see the edges, so we want to replicate that. So what I'm going to do is first again make sure I have my sun layer selected. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Lens Blur. Now I already have the settings kind of pre-programmed here because I've done this before, so I know kind of what works and what doesn't. So for my settings, I have it set for the radius to 58, the blade curvature to 0, and the rotation to 52, and the threshold all the way up to 255. So those work pretty well. If you do want to play around with it though, you can. So I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, it gives me this this nice little blur where it kind of gives me this, where it almost looks like you can see the corona of the sun almost, where this is closer to what it would look like if you're actually staring at it, which you should never do, by the way. So I'm looking here, and this still looks pretty cartoonish. It doesn't look natural, and we want it to look like this is a real picture. So what I'm going to do now is merge these two layers down here at the bottom by clicking on Layer, and then merge visible. And the reason I do this is because what I'm about to do, I want to affect the entire picture, including the background, and not just the image of the sun. So now I'm going to come up here to Filter, Render, Lens Flare. So I already had this preset because I've tried this before, but you'll see you have this image selector tool here where you can choose where the lens flare is going to go. You just want to stick it right in the middle of the sun, the best you can. You might not be able to get it perfectly in the middle, but that's pretty close. What I found works best is having the 105mm prime lens effect on, and then I set the brightness at around 135 to 140. So depending on the color you chose, you might need to make it a little brighter to kind of hide that. Or if you chose more of a white color, you could drop the brightness down to 135. So I'm going to hit OK. And boom, there you go. You'll see that you have this really nice glow of the sun. You have these rays coming out, these lens abnormalities that you would typically see through a camera, and it looks natural. That looks like a real picture. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Again, this is how you make an artificial sun in Photoshop. Thanks again.